working on this scene, SpriteKit, yada 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 thing. Before I get into it, let me just say this. I went up to YouTube and I Googled how do you do this sprite, zooming and panning and SpriteKit with the view and yada yada yada. And like the third video that came up was my little demo just doing panning and zooming when I was just beginning to figure stuff out. So there's not a lot out there, but people do it. I'm just trying to figure it out. So with that said, I've got a ton of code doing some debug stuff. Let me pull up some pictures here. So this is one view, right? You've got tile maps, right? My tile maps are hexagonal, not grid coordinates. So, but it's kind of like this. 0, 0 is in your lower left, and your max is up in your top right. So this would be like a first coordinate system, first quadrant coordinate system. Positive as you go up to the right, and positive as you go up. And then you've got a camera zoom on the viewport, but you kind of know that, right? The next thing is there's a whole bunch of different coordinate systems, right? So you've got the screen, you got the view, you got the game scene, you got the camera view, you got the tile maps, yada, yada, yada. All right, so we've got that. And so here, trying to make a representative picture, and it's color coded because I'm going to show you some dots here in a second. All right, so the view is the screen, and you have rounded corners on a screen. And this and there's like a little HUD here. So top left is up here, 0, 0. However, since these things have rounded corners, 0, 0 would be off screen. You can do an API call to do like safe insets or safe area, and you get the insets, and that takes it over. One of the things I'm kind of surprised though is it takes it over considerably, and I think that's because of this. It's not only the safe area is coming from here to here, it's coming over even further because you could have this, I can't remember what they call it, active area or something. I mean, it's like something that came out with the newer phones, dock island or something. So really your truly safe space is over here. Maybe I should take that into consideration, but there's some extra screen over there. You might as well kind of use it. All right, so in this code, trying to figure out, how the coordinates are going, and this would be your fourth quadrant coordinate system. This is close to 0, 0, but I think in this case I'm saying it's at 1, 1. It's at 1, 1 plus the safe inset. This would be 70, 70 plus the safe inset. So since it's going this way and down, this is right? And that's how I was like getting that. All right, and this is kind of like in the UI view controller, which is the stub code that Apple gives you when you create one of these sample apps. There is another file that I'm working with, which is the game scene Swift file. That's the file where all of your actions are happening, your map, your sprites and stuff. And in this case, I've got a hierarchy. Let's see if I can pull that up. And I like picking them this way. So this is the game scene, right? This is how I've drawn the map. And if you come over here to the attributes area, this is the size of it, right? So it's 1334, and you're seeing over here that width, and it's weird, it's putting 0 there. Okay, because this is not scrolled. this out. Zoom it out. Yeah, there we go. What I find odd is he's saying from 0 to here is 1334. It would seem to me that that width should be this width, right? Minus 1300 to positive 1300. So, I don't know, the way it works, I don't know why. The anchor point is in the middle. So it's half of your x and half of your y, which is on 0. Also, you can see in the scene, you know, you have a physics boundaries and you have gravity. So currently, gravity would be going this way down. That's your, that way. I'm not using gravity. I could probably turn that off, but it's just by default. In the scene, I have two things at top level. I have a camera and then I have a world. The world is an empty node, and then I have a base map, but I add things to the world and the base map as I go. So like my units are in the world, and I want to have them move corresponding to the base map, and then I'm panning and and scrolling. All right, so that's that. And let me see if I go back over here, and this is the file that gets loaded, and all of this code gets handled by here. And you can see where I've got some dots in here. If we go to the game view controller though, remember I said I did the view safe area insets, and then I'm putting it at 1, and 70, but it's also based upon this value here. All right, let's go back to the simulator. The simulator is there. All right, and pull this back up. And pull that simulator up. Top of that. Maybe pull. Let's do it this way. Preview. There we go. It's a little better. So this is not quite right here. Anyway, these are also in white, and these are view in terms of the view, right? So top left 0, 0 is over here someplace. We're coming over a safe inset area. Over here, the view 852, 393, so it's over here, right? All right, within that there is the scene. The scene has this red bounding box that goes around everything within the scene, which includes the tile map. And like I was saying, it is a little different. While you're in the scene, if you remember going back, this was positive this way, negative this way, negative this way. So because he's in the center. So this green dot, which is drawn in the game scene, and this dull gray dot, they're at 0, 0 and 100, 100. I do believe that's accurate. Game scene. And this is repetitive code. So yeah, 1 and 100, not 0 and 0, but it's close enough. All right, let's pull this down. Okay, and I have no need to show the code anymore, man. You can look at the GitHub. So that's here and here, and so you know that's positive up that way. You know where it's at. The camera also, the camera is what's actually being visible, right? So you have a camera showing you what's on the screen. This is the center of it. The center is here. You go up, it's like 50, 50, and it's right there. 150, 150 is right there. So I know that those, where they are. And then I've got this thing panned over and moved, and I'm not trying to clamp. I had the clamp and stuff working. I'm not clamping now. I'm just in each of those tiles, if you remember when you saw that picture, I don't know if you noticed, but in the corners, I put a water tile just so I could, like when I was handling like panning, I always wanted to make sure I could see that water tile. But this would be, and now it's not X and Y, it's row columns. So this is 0, 0, column, comma, row. All right, column is X, rows or Y. And there's that blue dot. So now I'm trying to show that coordinate system in blue here. The reds are the camera nodes, yada, yada, yada. And then I've got a HUD that I've added to it for each of these corners where I'm showing in view coordinates what the view is for top left and top right. And these numbers shouldn't change right here, right? Because that's always what it is. And then the scene coordinates for those top left, top right, which are in scene coordinates. So over here, this is 2254, so 2200 and 1400. And if we come back over here, that should be corresponding to that. This is 1334. That would be 26 if you're counting from there to there. And this would be double 1500. So approximately that. 710. So come on, pardon me, in blue. So it's about that, and maybe that's offset. Those numbers are offset a little. I've got to work on that. I'll come up. I need to think more about that. But now, if I take those scene view, remember this is here, and I move it to this coordinate system, it's this, and this is reasonably okay. So as I pan this to get to 0, 0, which is up at the top, let's pull this up. So as I get right about there, move it where it's just visible, you just get a little bit of the red. Remember 0, 0 is up here. This scene, which is here, he's about right on 0, 0, right? Which is kind of corresponding to that. So that's valid. One of the couple things, of course, you know, that hex down there, we're kind of go backwards, the simplest. He's still in the same position, so that dot is not changing. The scene, which is the view, which are these guys, those dots aren't changing because that's the screen, right? The scene, which are these two guys, that's a little confusing to me because you would think they would change as they pan, but it might be considered the scene within the viewable area. Maybe the camera takes that into effect. I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out. Likewise, the camera node, that kind of makes sense, right? Because as you move about, he's always in those positions. Let's see if we can do a pinched zoom. No, is it this way? Yeah, so if we zoom in and out, now you see the red corresponding to the camera, so that's the red and the purple. They're staying fixed, but the scene, the two greens, they change when zoom. All right, not only do the dots get bigger, the spaces get bigger. Panning, they're unaffected. So anyway, I haven't got it all figured out how to do it correctly. Like I said, for the panning, I got that working. That would like pan up to that point, but which once I zoomed, it threw it off. So I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm thinking it's gonna be looking at the scene in terms of the view. So but I wanted to save this and checkmate this with the code and I'm at the GitHub repo at the time.